all the indicators are very auspicious. If we look at the situation we're in right now, I think there's never been more clarity or differentiation for Bitcoin as the dominant crypto asset than today. I think we've got pretty good clarity and universal consensus that Bitcoin is an asset without an issuer, that it's a global asset, that it is a non-sovereign store of value strategy for someone seeking to escape currency debasement. And I think the fact that Larry Fink, running the world's largest asset manager, vocalized all those ideas on public television of late was a milestone.
The undisputed king of Bitcoin himself, Michael Saylor, says he's never been more bullish on Bitcoin than right now. Saylor, just today in an interview with Natalie Brunel, laid out 5 specific reasons as to why he has never been more bullish on Bitcoin than ever before. Firstly, Larry Fink, the man at the helm of BlackRock, has come out on public television multiple times in the last month endorsing Bitcoin and calling it a safeguard against currency debasement. Secondly, multiple US presidential candidates have come out openly supporting Bitcoin. This includes Ron DeSantis, who is extremely pro-Bitcoin, as well as Robert F. Kennedy, the third favorite presidential candidate. Thirdly, regulators are endorsing Bitcoin. Both the CFTC and SEC have made it clear that Bitcoin is a commodity and no negative regulation is being pursued. Fourth, the tone of mainstream media has radically shifted. If you look at how Bitcoin is now being treated across all major mainstream media networks, Fox, CNBC, Bloomberg, The Wall Street Journal, and The Times, it has moved from suspicion and fear to respect and acceptance. Finally, and this is perhaps the biggest, the largest asset managers in the world, BlackRock and Fidelity, filing for a spot Bitcoin ETF, with it now pegged at a 65% chance at approval. Based off all of this, Saylor says we are at an inflection point. We are at the point where you have the most information available to you to conclude that Bitcoin is a unique asset that is the best bet for safeguarding your wealth against currency debasement. Yet there is a large pool of capital that would love to be in this space, but they can't easily do it until the spot Bitcoin ETF. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where Saylor explains why we are in for an extremely exciting 12 months ahead. Also guys, if you want to stay most up to date on the crypto world, I send out a daily 5-minute crypto newsletter that covers expert predictions, on-chain data breakdowns, and breaking news, all for free. Click the first link in the description, enter your email, and join over 3,000 others to become a better crypto investor right now. Now here's Saylor on why he's never been more bullish.
I think the second milestone for the space is the groundswell of positive sentiment for Bitcoin, both in the form of overall crypto positivity and Bitcoin positivity. The statements by Ron DeSantis emphatically supporting your right to Bitcoin, the statements by Robert F. Kennedy emphatically supporting your right to Bitcoin, the disclosure that Kennedy actually purchased a bunch of Bitcoin for his children publicly is a big step forward. I think the fact you have 2 other presidential candidates, Mayor Suarez and Ramaswamy, also announcing support for Bitcoin, I think those are really big deals. So that combined with the regulators endorsing it, the CFTC and the SEC, combined with the tone and treatment of mainstream media. If we look at the treatment of Bitcoin in the mainstream media, both across CNBC, Fox, Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, the Times, and the like, I think you could see a market rotation of sentiment over the past 2 years, from one of incredulity and suspicion and fear and concern to respect, either a grudging respect or this, or I guess this thing is more than we thought it was. So that sentiment has changed. I think it's pretty clear that there is support for Bitcoin in both parties, in the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and at the White House level. And I think there's obviously has been universal support for Bitcoin across the crypto ecosystem. And the regulatory developments of the past 6 months, if anything, they've increased uncertainty around everything else in crypto. The crypto exchanges, the cryptocurrencies that are stable coins, the crypto securities, the crypto tokens, the crypto exchanges and DeFi networks. The uncertainty there is still there, if not greater, but they've increased the certainty around Bitcoin. All of the companies, the large financial companies filing for a spot ETF, companies, all the Bitcoin miners continuing to operate, companies like Microstrategy and asset managers, all of them moving forward with Bitcoin. I think that's been very auspicious. So I feel like we're at an inflection point. It's a point at which you have the most information to conclude that Bitcoin is a differentiated international asset, store of value, and digital commodity, and unique in the world and useful to the world. You have the most information to conclude that. And yet, the ability of the retail public and the ability of institutions and governments is still largely impaired to act on that. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult for a retiree with a pension fund to make an investment in Bitcoin. It's very difficult for a large corporation to invest in Bitcoin. It's difficult for a sovereign wealth fund. It's difficult for a government. It's difficult for a hedge fund. And so you have an example where you know where the world is headed. You know what the world needs. Rational people will eventually get there. You also have a list of reasons why it's difficult, right? Why is it difficult? It's difficult because the accounting is indefinite and intangible instead of fair value. So you have a challenge, and you have a solution, a process to create fair value accounting with the end of the tunnel clearly in view. If it's not happening by the end of the year, it's happening within 12 months. You have a challenge. I can't buy a spot ETF. You have a solution. You have a host of spot ETF applications that are in version 3, right? People have been trying to do it. We must be on version 4 or version 5 iteration. Yeah. But you have version 5 that are much more compelling than the previous version, and you have a lot of political pressure and sentiment and conviction to support it, and that is a solution. Right? You have a challenge. We need a digital assets exchange to be transparent and regulated. You have a solution, surveillance agreements. Coinbase has already agreed to a surveillance agreement publicly with half a dozen or more of these ETF filers. You have a process. The SEC, the CFTC engaged in bringing exchanges into compliance. So you have all these challenges to action. You have all of these solutions in play. It's really just a matter of which quarter, how many quarters does it take before we put all the solutions in play. When the rails go in place, then there's a huge amount of capital that will flow against a limited supply. So you have, if we look at the demand side, my description here is buying Bitcoin is like buying a beautiful house, in a foreign neighborhood, and you have to pay cash up front, and it takes you a year of work to do it. Whereas buying Bitcoin via spot ETF is like buying the same beautiful house in your neighborhood with no money down tomorrow. And so there are many, many people that will not buy a house if they have to pay in cash, even ever, right? Like there are many people that will never ever buy a house in cash. One could say the great majority. And there are many people that will say, I would pay 20% more for that house if I could finance it at the bank. We have a large pool of capital that would love to be in the space, but they can't easily do it without things like Bitcoin securities or spot ETFs. And so that's going to be a big catalyst for demand. And we already know it's coming, and it hasn't come, which means it has not reflected itself fully in the price. Now, on the other side, we have two facts about supply. We know that there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. That's the overarching important first order fact. And the second order fact we have is that there's a halving coming that will cut the supply that the miners have available to sell in half, and that's nearly $5 billion a year worth of supply. And then we have a third order fact. The third order fact is, if large institutions can now comfortably own Bitcoin on their balance sheet, they're going to buy it and hold it forever, and the people that hold it now aren't going to want to sell it. So the supply available for sale from existing holders is going to decrease. The supply available for sale from miners is going to decrease. And yet the demand to purchase it will increase. And the duration, right? The amount of time that someone wants to hold this asset is going to is going to increase. If you decide to buy Bitcoin and hold it for a year, then that means every year 10 billion is being bought and 10 billion is being dumped on the market. But when you decide to buy Bitcoin and hold it for a decade, that means every year 10 billion is being purchased and 1 billion is being dumped on the market. So all of these things put together, they increase the demand, they stretch out the duration, they decrease the supply, and they decrease the friction to anybody to act in the favor of the network. So put them all together, and the summary is never been more bullish. Well, first of all, there's broad-based demand everywhere in the world, right? Everybody wants to buy Bitcoin, but they want to buy Bitcoin through their existing money manager or financial manager or bank, and that means pick up the phone, buy $10 million worth of it or $10,000 worth of it in 30 seconds. So there's demand at the retail level, and there's demand at the institutional level. And in order to meet that demand in size, people need a security like that travels on the conventional Wall Street rails, right? We've talked about it. It's just like everybody wants a house, but if everybody has to work for 30 years, save cash, and then at the end of their career, take the cash to the bank to buy the house, demand for housing would be 5% of what it is right now. So there's broad-based demand, and that's building. The second is there's massive political pressure from everybody. The industry has brought a huge amount of pressure on the regulators and huge amount of pressure on the political system. We see a massive amount of political pressure coming from the House Financial Services Committee, and the pressure is to do something. We're approaching an election year, and it's in the best interest of both parties to be constructive and to do something that's progressive for the voters. And there really isn't a constituency that doesn't like Bitcoin, right? You're either ignorant of it and you don't know anything about it, or you're extremely pro-Bitcoin. So politically, it's very advantageous to do something pro-Bitcoin here on the Republican side and on the Democratic side. And it's the least controversial, most constructive thing that can be done. And what you have is just a large amount of pressure in the industry and in the media and in the political system to do something. And you have now Wall Street firms, BlackRock and Fidelity, lining up again.
So there's Michael Saylor, the undisputed king of Bitcoin, on why he's never been more bullish. From BlackRock's endorsement to the supportive stance of US presidential candidates, regulators, mainstream media, and the excitement surrounding a possible Bitcoin ETF, the coming year promises to be a thrilling ride for investors. Saylor's insights remind us that we are at a defining moment in Bitcoin's history where significant shifts in perception and regulatory landscape creates new opportunities for investment and growth. If you want to keep your finger and pulse on these dynamic changes and stay well informed, be sure to subscribe to my free daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. Just click the first link in the description and join over 3,000 others in becoming a more knowledgeable crypto investor right now. We're looking forward to an exciting 12 months ahead, and we're thrilled to have you with us on this journey. Anyway guys, hope you all enjoyed today's video and that provided you with some value. I'll see you all in the next one, and as always, all the best.